I am Frederick D. Haynes III.
And this is the Haynes Remix. Dad, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How you be?
I'm fine.
Awesomeness.
Good. I'm
Awesome.
dressed for the occasion.
Wardell Curry, the GOAT.
It's Wardell Stephen Curry II.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, you called him the GOAT?
I mean, nobody has ever shot the ball.
Wait, so
like Steph
he's your
Curry.
GOAT?
Nobody's ever shot the ball like
That's
Steph.
not what I asked you.
He's my fave.
Is he your GOAT, though?
I mean, I'll give it to him.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, I mean, nobody's...
We're Magic? We'll get into it. Never mind.
Yeah,
anyway, but before we begin our debate, Dad.
Oh, yeah.
What are we going to do?
Hey, it's time for that remix.
All right, so it's time for an inspirational word from my dad. Once again, you all know that he's going to give you a scripture to renew and revitalize you to help you get through your week. So, Dad, what do you have for us today?
Hey, so since we're dealing with what's happening on the athletic field and court, Paul writes in Philippians chapter 3, I'm forgetting the things that are behind me and pressing toward the mark for the call of the prize of God in Christ Jesus. It's a very powerful passage because what Paul is doing, he's basically using imagery from the Olympics of antiquity. And he's saying that what I'm doing is I'm like someone in a sprint race. I'm running because my eyes are on the finish line. And because my eyes are on the finish line, that's my focus. I am focused because the only way that you're going to make it in this thing called life is to be focused. All of the athletes we admire are known for what? They're focused. They are so driven. They are focused because there is a goal they are aspiring to. And that's what Paul is saying in this passage. So in the Freddie Haynes remix, here's what Paul is saying. I ain't tripping on the stuff that's behind me. That's a part of my practice. That's a part of my getting ready for the race I'm about to run. And now when the gun goes off, pow! I'm on my way down that lane and I'm running toward that lane with my eyes on the prize. And once I cross the finish line, the good news is I am going to receive my medal, my gold medal. That's the updated version. Back then, they would have this crown that they would be given of leaves that they would receive from a political powerhouse. And so basically what I'm saying is in this thing called life, if you want to finish well, make sure that you are focused with your eyes on the prize that is in front of you, but also don't trip on what's behind you. After all, everything behind you has set the stage for what is in front of you. And that's the good news I give to everyone this day. And that is, you know what? As much as I admire the work ethic of Steph, Muhammad Ali, Serena Williams, Wyoming Attias, the great late one who ran in such a way in 1988, she broke records that have not been broken to this day. FloJo, not to mention, shout out to our homegirl right in the DF Dub, Carter High School's own Sha'Carri Richardson. All of them, in order to become great, they focused, they worked hard, and they kept their eyes on the prize. If they do that for a gold medal, a ring, or a championship, won't you do that in your faith walk? Amen.
All right, Dad. So let's debate. Because you put on the front earlier talking about Steph is your GOAT.
He's the greatest shooter of all time.
and that's disrespectful.
No, it's not. He is the greatest shooter.
He is, but he's so much more than that.
Without a doubt.
Okay, but I feel like now when people say that, it's like reducing him to just being a great shooter when he's so much more.
No, I agree with that. Steph is a person of high character, and that translates on the court in his leadership. Not only that, but in recent years, he's become a beast on the defensive end. I also got to get him
He led
credit.
the league in steals in 2016.
I'm saying he's a beast on the defensive end.
Okay.
But not only that, but Steph, on top of all of that, is a playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he makes the team around him better. So
On and off the ball.
without a doubt.
Because your greatest point guard ever was just on the ball. Great.
Okay, but
Playmaking.
he got 5 rings too.
Okay, well, when Steph get his 5th, we'll be back.
I want him to.
Oh, okay then. Well, anyway, Dad. So let's see. Let's start off with your top 5. Top 5 greatest players of all time.
In any sport, right?
No.
You're talking about
Basketball.
basketball?
My bad.
Okay.
Actually, give me your top 10.
In basketball?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I start with Jordan, Steph, Magic.
Is this in order?
Not necessarily.
I need you to put them in order. At least the top 5, and then the rest of them you could just.
Okay, Jordan is, I mean, you can't argue with 6-0, finals, never seeing a game 7. I start with MJ.
Okay.
After MJ, it gets real murky because, I mean, let me say this because this is very important. It's hard to compare eras because of the fact that if you go with rings, you can't ignore Bill Russell and 11 rings. Not to mention Bill Russell not only won 11 championships, but one of those, he was coach and player. Ain't nobody else ever done that. And so, and you never hear Bill Russell's name mentioned when it comes to GOAT. But nobody on the defensive end could, handle him because he handled them. And so I have mad love for Bill Russell. I really do. I also have mad love for Dr. J. Dr. J opened up basketball so that you could have Magic and Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. None of them become what they become without Dr. J opening that door. Also, you can't argue Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 points in a game. And, I mean, he is perhaps one of the greatest scorers, if not the greatest scorer in the history of the game. You can't argue with the Big O. So I'm going way back. Oscar Robertson averaging a triple-double, during the course of a year. And then, of course, Irvin Magic Johnson. I mean, Magic with 5 rings and winning in his very first season as a rookie after having won the NCAA title the year before against a Larry Bird-led Indiana State team. And then, when he goes to Philadelphia for game 6 of the NBA Finals in his rookie year, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who deserves to be on the list, parenthetically, and I'll come back to Kareem, but Magic Johnson plays all 5 positions in the final game of the NBA Finals and leads the Lakers to the title against the Julius Erving-led Philadelphia 76ers. It's hard to argue with that greatness. It's hard to argue with the 6 rings of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the only unstoppable shot in the history of the game, the sky hook. Unblockable, unstoppable. That's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I got to shout out the Copester, Kobe Bryant. I mean, Kobe Bean Bryant, he mirrored Michael Jordan. So anytime you talk about MJ, or Kobe, you got to give it up to MJ, who he unapologetically copied. And as they say, it's all right to be a copycat if you copy the right cat.
Are these on your top 10?
Yeah.
Or you would?
I just got a little happy and went.
Because you were just giving all the history. So
Right.
Steph ain't on your top 10?
I didn't say Steph yet.
No, you did not.
Oh, well, Steph is definitely there.
And you didn't say LeBron either.
I did not say LeBron. Okay, so Steph, without a doubt, because, again, Steph changed the game. The game will never be the same because of Steph Curry. And the other thing I just want to say about Steph is that, Steph has handles and Steph can pass. And I got to give you credit for this, because for me, the greatest passer had always been Magic until you showed me clips of Steph. And Steph got he got handles and he can pass the ball. So, and then LeBron, here's LeBron's thing. Over 20 plus years, he's been at this high level that cannot be denied. And so because of that high level over such a long period of time, he belongs in GOAT conversations, not for the apex of his career, but for the longevity. As Dr. King said, longevity has its place. So give me your top 10.
So that was your top 10. You were very diplomatic. I really didn't like it.
Okay, well, what you got?
And you didn't say Shaq either. Okay, so I think
oh man, that's
exactly Tim Duncan, Larry Bird. Like, what are you doing? But anyways,
you're right. But again, it's hard to do. I said it's hard to do.
So on the court, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, I think, is the GOAT. I think people need to stop comparing him and LeBron. I know LeBron is great.
Yeah,
he is not in my top. I'll give him like top 3 maybe. I would say MJ. I really have grown to appreciate Kobe Bryant in recent years. One thing that I think is a knock against LeBron is this is supposedly your era, but Steph Curry done beat you down in your era. So if you're going to have LeBron up in the top 5, you got to have Steph up in the top 5. I'll put Shaquille O'Neal in my top 10. Tim Duncan. Who else is there? Why are you looking at me like that?
I just want to hear. I want to hear this.
Oh, Magic Johnson.
Thank
of course.
you. I was waiting on Magic.
And see, and I unfortunately, because this is way before my time, so I don't have this. I don't have the same appreciation for Bill Russell, the Oscar Robinsons, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think Kareem for sure, because it took LeBron a much longer time to reach Kareem's all-time scoring list record.
You still don't have Kareem's 6 rings.
Right. And so, and also Michael was able to do a lot more in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
And so.
And he took off 3 years, not 3 years, but at least a year and a half.
Yeah, in between.
Of his best prime time.
Yeah, for sure. And the only reason, because people like to use the Wizard years to knock him, but the only reason he came back was so he could become an owner. And so,
well, and they may try to use it to knock him, but I was at the game here in Dallas when he played the Mavericks, and as a Wizard went for 41 points.
Yeah. I mean, you ain't got to tell me nothing. That's my favorite. So then let's do something differently, though.
You didn't say Steph.
I did say Steph. Did I not say? I said Steph because you can knock LeBron because LeBron's era. So I said if you don't have LeBron in your top 5, you got to have Steph in your top 5.
You just didn't expound on Steph like you did the others.
Steph is my GOAT. He's not the GOAT though.
Okay.
So there's a difference between
I get it.
My personal beliefs, and then I could be objective about what's reality.
Oh, that's good.
And MJ is at the top of the list, and I think a lot of LeBron stans, they need to get checked back into reality. However, let's switch it up.
Okay.
Because a lot of what we focus on is justice. Mm-hmm. Let's break down or try and highlight top 10 in any athletic arena being great on the court and off the court. Yeah. So the people that I've come up with so far, and this is not just players. I included some coaches on here. I wrote down Greg Popovich.
Love him.
He's always been on the right side of history to me. He's always using his platform to uplift, really important issues.
And privilege.
Right.
Because he acknowledges he's privileged as a white male, but he always gives voice to the underprivileged.
Right. I also have, even though, he can get on my nerves sometimes, Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
He does a great job at uplifting voices. And a lot, he's even spoken to this, comes from his own background and what happened to his father's tragic murder.
Yeah.
And how that had inspired for him to have conversations with a whole bunch of different people.
Right.
I have Steph Curry.
Yeah.
My wonderful, glorious goat. Because he's done a lot, I think, in the golf community. What
Especially
he's done
at Howard.
at Howard University, my alma mater. Making sure that in golf, like, there's just a lot of representation that we don't normally see because of the cost it takes to even be involved in that sport. And then also, I mean, he's done a lot off the court. LeBron.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. LeBron. Okay. Muhammad. Can you talk to us about Muhammad?
I mean, Ali is Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And, first, one of the things, and I want to make sure I say this up front, Ali was impatient with injustice, and it was informed by his relationship with Malcolm X.
Right.
And the Nation of Islam. So when you heard Ali speaking, you heard him repeating oftentimes what he had heard from Malcolm,
right,
and even Elijah Muhammad. And so I want to give them a shout out because they often get overlooked. Even during his funeral, Minister Farrakhan was there, but he was not given a place to speak. And the Ali that everyone raves about for his unapologetic blackness. I mean, when he says, I'm not going to the Vietnam War because Viet Cong ain't never called me the N-word, that had everything to do with how he was informed by the Nation of Islam. And so I shout them out unapologetically because I know that Ali's social justice consciousness was being framed, fueled, and informed by the nation. And I got to say this as an indictment on white Jesus Christianity, because Muhammad Ali would see, even in black churches, these images of white Jesus, while at the same time in Louisville, Kentucky, watching blatant racism, segregation, second-class citizenship. And so Muhammad Ali comes back from, as Cassius Clay at the time, winning an Olympic gold medal for this country. He fought for this country. But when he got back, this country showed him racism, white supremacy. And that's when it's alleged he threw his gold medal into the river there in Louisville, Kentucky. And so, he threw it away because it's like, I fought for this country over in Rome. I win a gold medal, but my gold medal still does not immunize me from white supremacy in this country. And that set him up to meet Malcolm. And he's in New York, hears Brothers on the Street, Nation, sees the distinguished, bow ties and suits and believing in blackness. And so Muhammad Ali, and let me say this, here's why he's my GOAT. He took a stand for us and was willing to pay the price. A lot of folk talk a lot of smack, but they don't want to pay a price for the convictions they discuss in the barbershop, but won't stand up with a willingness to pay a price for what they believe.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, to continue with my top 10, I also have Bill Russell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he endured a lot, especially in Boston.
Yeah.
Just how do you operate in a racist environment?
Yeah.
And he was a trailblazer.
Can I just say this? Also, Bill Russell, one of the things that blessed me in meeting him, he was in San Francisco for a good period of time. And so he would come to Third Baptist Church when my granddaddy was there. And so that always endeared me to him. But on top of that, Bill Russell, when there was segregation in the public schools in Boston, Bill Russell, playing for the Celtics, catching hell from Boston Celtics fans, but he still got out in the streets fighting for the desegregation of Boston public schools. You talk about, I mean, you're already catching hell, and yet you're still out there fighting like that. And then what he did, he was smart enough, he and Jerry West, and I give Jerry West credit here, he and Jerry West said, we're not going to play in your all-star game until you end the quota on the number of black players you can have per team. Ain't that something? Because there was a time when you could only have so many black players on your team in the NBA. All-star game comes, Bill Russell and Jerry West say, we staying back here. We ain't even going on the court until you end the quota on black players. And so when you see all these teams with so many black players now, it started because Jerry West and Bill Russell refused to play in the All-Star game until the owners changed it.
Wow, Jerry, I you just taught me something new. I didn't know about that. And I also always hear about what Jerry West has done for so many organizations. Yeah. But to hear that, that's amazing. Yeah. I think he deserves to be in the top 10 list. Yeah. Naomi Osaka, I have her.
Mad love.
I also have, because of their trailblazers, they broke through racial barriers. I have Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, and then I have Serena and Venus. So it makes it 11, but I have Serena and Venus.
Yeah, they deserve
sharing. So what do you think of my list? And then also, do you have your own, or do you take people out, or do you have your own?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think your list is on point.
Thanks.
And represents, your consciousness, which I really respect. I would only add that for me, in this era, because of the price he paid, Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, yeah.
Colin Kaepernick raised consciousness using his platform to the point where it cost him his football career.
And the thing he loves the most.
The thing he loves so much, because he could have played baseball, but he chose football. Mm-hmm. And, I was replaying earlier this week when he first decided, I'm not standing during the national anthem. And so somebody noticed, asked him, and he says, I can't stand for national anthem in honor of a country where black people are getting killed at the hands of police officers. And he just went off. And then he got with, I can't think of his name right now, but a veteran. And the veteran said it'd be more respectful if you take a knee. Mm-hmm. And that's when he started to take a knee. And it raised consciousness. It really, what he did, he married his efforts to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
And as a consequence, so much good was done in terms of addressing police violence in black communities. And you can't do that without acknowledging what Colin Kaepernick did.
That's good.
Yeah.
So no one else, you think my list is solid?
I mean, your list is very solid. I would say again, Colin Kaepernick. I'm glad you said Jackie Robinson.
Anybody in football? Because I don't think I have anybody in football on there.
Well, then you missed Jim Brown.
Oh, except Colin. Okay, yeah. I
mean, Jim Brown. Jim Brown was one of the first especially when Muhammad Ali took his stand. Mm-hmm. He gathered athletes, Kareem Jabbar and others, to stand with Muhammad Ali. And Jim Brown was, one of those you could count on during the civil rights movement to take stands for justice and righteousness. But it is very interesting that we don't often find football players, who are out there fighting for justice.
I wonder why.
I have some theories. Mm-hmm. Number one, football, especially the NFL, everything that's been shared with me by people I know who either played in the NFL or they had relatives in the NFL, there's no plantation in sports like the NFL. And the NFL being the most popular sport today, It's more popular than basketball, let's be real, than baseball. I mean, they call baseball America's pastime. No, it's football. Football is taking it. And so kids grow up dreaming of becoming football players. And the NFL now controls your dream. So if this institution controls your dream, then you better cooperate with what this institution says. I funeralized one here at this church who was in the NFL, and his family shared with me that his testimony was that when you are in that league, when you're in the league, they capture your mind. And when they capture your mind, you go into a space that it takes years to get delivered from after you have retired. And it may not even take place after you retire if they decide to keep you in their little circle where you get, little commercials here or spots here. And so as a consequence, my assessment is the NFL is the biggest plantation in sports.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. I do want to say, though, I think we don't hear about them as much, but there are players out there who have a justice IQ.
Yeah.
One that comes to mind is like Darius Slay. He's been very outspoken, formerly of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's with the Steelers now, unfortunately. They just ruined the Eagles team. Sorry to all the Cowboys fans out there. Or fans, I don't care.
No, but and I'm glad you said that because I didn't even mention some players. There was a Green Bay Packer who was in that photograph with Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Willie, I forgot his last name, but anyway, so I'm not going to just blatantly, whitewash, all NFL black players as not having consciousness because there are some. I want to say this though.
White players too. There were some that I remember during Colin Kaepernick's piece. They took a stand.
There's no question.
I would mention this one player, but because of recent happenings, I don't know what he's doing. So we can't even shout him out because he took a stand back then. But his quarterback and his girl. I mean, I'm not even gonna go there.
Well, let me just say this. One of the things that the NFL does, and it's so shrewd. It is shrewd. I give them the plantation operation is shrewd. And that is they pick communities that now the Eagles are much better. The Eagles are off in the hood. Mm-hmm. I give them major props for that. But in many cities, Dallas, but in many cities, they are very, how can I put it? There are certain communities they do not go to. Mm-hmm. They do not spend time in. And for me, that's real problematic. But what they do so much community service. Mm-hmm. And the community service they do in selected, safe communities, it's one thing. And I hope we get this from this podcast. And that is, it's one thing to give me charity with your community service. It's another thing altogether to fight for justice. Yeah. I often share the story of, in this home for those who are mentally challenged, the kitchen has this water faucet and sink, and it's said that, hey, if you want to, be free to go home, you have to pass this test. They turn the faucet on, the sink overflows, and now there's a flood in the kitchen, and they bring the person who says, I'm a candidate for liberation, and the person is given a mop and told, okay, if you get this cleaned up, then you can go home. You are set free. Now, if all they do is mop around the mess, but never turn off the faucet, then they are not ready to be free. But if they turn off the faucet and then mop up the mess, then they are ready to be free. We live in a country where the NFL and many others have no problem giving us a mop to mop up the mess, but they don't want to turn off the faucet that got the mess messy to begin with. And so that, for me, is why the NFL was such a shrewd and successful plantation, because they giving out mops, but they never want to turn off the faucet.
That's deep. Well, when we come back, I want to talk to you about the face of the league, specifically the NBA.
Okay.
All right.
Uh-oh.
So that in recent weeks, there was a conversation around who's going to be the next face of the NBA and all of this blah, blah, blah. And, saying who will want that title and everything. I think we should define what that should be, not just like what it is. Because I think the current faces, a lot of times people talk about LeBron and Steph and Kevin Durant. I think two of them more than the third. But what they do represent right now is not just their greatness on the court. It's also what they do off the court.
Right.
That I think makes them great faces. Also, like, you see they're, upstanding members of their communities. They're great family men. We see them taking care of their families. We see them unapologetically loving their Black wives.
Right.
So then everybody's talking about, and really quickly, before we even go too much further, can we appreciate the greatness that we are witnessing right now? Because it seems like far too often we're ready to say, well, who's the next this? Who's the next this? We only have a few more years of LeBron and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
They're not going to be here much longer.
Right.
The clock is starting to tick, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so instead of focusing on what can be, let's appreciate and celebrate what is right now. I think that's really important. Anyway, so Anthony Edwards came up in the conversation, and he's basically said, I don't want to be it. And then you see all of this stuff happening off the court in terms of his personal life.
Yeah.
And, however people can feel about it, personally, for me, it's very disheartening to see his relationships with the opposite sex and how he's going about that, and how he basically really wants nothing to do with raising
that's sad.
a child that he did lay down with a woman.
Right.
And this baby is here, and as much as you don't like her, why should a child have to suffer?
Exactly.
So, first of all, what are your thoughts around that? And do you think do you have people who could potentially be the face of the league, or are you not even caught up in that right now?
I mean, honestly, until that conversation came up recently, I never really thought about it like that. Because, again, keep in mind, I grew up in a time where, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, but they didn't really get that kind of shine as face of the league. And then here comes Magic on the heels of Dr. J. And again, and let's be honest, one of the reasons that the above-mentioned names were not face of the league was because basketball was being seen as too black. And as a consequence, you had a number of people. I mean, as crazy as it is, the game I mentioned when Magic Johnson played all 5 positions was not shown live. It was shown later that night at 11:30. It was recorded and shown later because of the ratings. Because America would not watch all black men playing basketball. That was the mindset, okay? And then here comes Magic and Larry Bird, and there had to be a Larry Bird in the mix before basketball could become popular. And then here comes Jordan. And here's why I wrestle with this. Jordan became the face of the league.
Yeah, he did.
No question about it. But when he became the face of the league, it was at the expense of his connection to the community. Because Jordan, don't forget, had an opportunity to stand with Harvey Gantt running for senator, U.S. Senate, in the state where he grew up, in the state where he starred at the University of North Carolina as a Tar Heel. Jordan has a chance to endorse Harvey Gantt in a close race with and avowed white supremacist Jesse Helms.
Mm-hmm.
All Jordan has to do is say, I'm standing with Harvey Gantt.
Yeah.
And he says, no, Republicans buy shoes too, tennis shoes too. And it was almost as if I got to remain the face of the league. I got to make sure my brand remains intact. But you do it at the expense of your connection to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I really stopped tripping on that. Because I loved this game. Couldn't deny how great he was. But I could not stand the fact that he divorced himself from us in the process. So when I heard this whole talk about, you know, LeBron face of the league and LeBron feeling a certain kind of way, who would want to be the face of the league, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, Anthony Edwards with all this going on in his personal life.
And he's also said he doesn't want it.
And he said he does not want it. I think it's important for us to define what does it mean to be the face of the league, and learning from the Jordan era, can you be the face of the league and not divorce yourself from the people?
That's true. Yeah. I think something that's really important, though, in recent years, and this is not, I think this is, in a sense, kind of deals with the service and charity, not the justice aspect. What I do appreciate with Jordan is opening up the 4 healthcare facilities.
He's killing the game now.
To combat, you know, our terrible healthcare system in this country. So I think that's really commendable. I don't know. I feel like the face of the league, like I said, it should be somebody who displays greatness on the court.
Yeah.
Also who has a connection to their community.
Yeah.
Because you don't want somebody that you feel is like untouchable.
Yeah.
In a sense. I would think that we would want them to, I don't think, you know what? I was about to say there should be, you know, these great husbands and father. I think if that's what you are, you should excel in that and you should be great in that and be an example for others about that. But if you're just a great human being personally, just period.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with, okay, am I married or not? Or do I have children or not?
Yeah.
It should just be who you are as a person. So I don't think the weight of, oh, well, I need to have a family and stuff like that, I don't think that should really be a part of the conversation. But if that's what your life is, you know, be great in that, I guess. Yeah. And also, I think we also need to know that people, they have their flaws. They're not gods.
Right. And they're under an intense spotlight.
Right. Yeah. And that's not always fair for people. So I just think displaying greatness on the court, having a connection to your community off the court, you've been given a platform and a microphone. How do you use it?
Yeah.
Do you say, I want nothing to do with this, or do you address things head on when you're asked?
Right, right. I agree with you. Everything you're saying, I think that it's very important. Character counts.
Yeah, character.
You know, I think that it's important that you are integritous. I think it's important that you also maintain a connection with the community and, you know, you do your thing, but at the same time that we allow for humanity, because the fact of the matter is they're human, we are human, and they, in too many instances, are young people, young adults who have come of age basically being programmed to play without regard for who they should become by way of their character. Because the whole idea is to have that dream come true. And then someone has some skills, and so they get in this pipeline to the NBA. And if you're not careful, that pipeline will be so socialized that your world is confined only to your skill on the basketball court, and you never grow as a human being. You never grow in terms of your social consciousness. That's why, again, for all of the things I don't care for, I give LeBron major props, because LeBron has done so much. He didn't have a dad around. LeBron has done so much and had a consciousness that, he's done what he's done with this school. He's taken a stand when Trump, came for Steph. I give him credit for that because he was in that pipeline. And yet that pipeline did not blind him to what's happening in the world. Now, I got to say this, and this is not where we were supposed to go, but I got to say this. I refuse to hold to a standard someone between the age of 18 and 40 who has been programmed to bounce a ball, shoot a ball, win games. I'm not going to hold them to a greater standard that I hold people who are firemen, police officers, preachers, attorneys, doctors, whatever your profession is. I want to know about your social consciousness. Yeah. I want to know, are you integritous? I want to know, you don't have the spotlight on you that they have on them. And yet, because in America, we have this whole thing where we make heroes out of folk with athletic ability, regardless of their character, regardless of their cognitive skills. All we want to know is, can you score? And if you score, I win. And when I win, I get bragging rights and all of that stuff. For me, that's a part of the problem here in America, and that is we put them on stages that they maybe ain't ready for.
Right.
And we ain't even ready for.
And a lot, I don't know the statistics behind it, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of, those who get to, excel in basketball and football and all the sports, especially if they're coming from the Black community, they're coming from poverty. And so when you get on this stage and, I'm not making excuses for people. I feel like you should stand on the right side of history regardless. But when you have a fear in you of being homeless again or being in poverty or living paycheck to paycheck, and you are put in a position is like, well, what do I say so I don't risk being in that position again? Right. That can be really, really tough.
Oh, yeah. And again, if you have been put in this pipeline of programming to think a certain way, and then you watch what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. They took everything from him. He gave up a whole lot. And so that's why I'm not as quick to judge, those who don't have anything to say, because I recognize you're between 18 and 40, and you're still developing cognitively, hopefully. And, because if you're in football, you may not be. That's a serious piece. Yeah. But again, and this has been your dream. And why give up your dream in order to remember the community? So for me, here's one of the things that I'll say like this. I've never been one to say, okay, and I loved Ali, loved him. Mad respect for Serena, but I'm not going to consider them my leaders. Mm-hmm. I thank God for them using their platform for us. When I think of leadership, if you have that platform, if you're Colin Kaepernick said this on that wonderful documentary about his life that came out during the pandemic. He said that, he was forced to cut his hair because, it was a rule, and they said you look like a thug and all that stuff. And he said when it happened, he knew it was wrong, but he did not have the tools to fight. He said, now I have the tools to fight. And a lot of times we expect people without tools or knowledge how to use those tools to fight. And I want to suggest, for me, those tools should involve what I call an Ubuntu consciousness, where I recognize that I am because we are, therefore I am. So my success is intimately tied to the success of my community. I'm not going to be all I want to be without bringing my community along with me. You got to have that Ubuntu consciousness. Ali had Ubuntu consciousness. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Ubuntu consciousness. Serena Williams, Ubuntu consciousness. I could call the roll of those who have had that consciousness. And as far as I'm concerned, that's who I want to follow. That's who I want to work with. Yeah. Those who have that Ubuntu consciousness. I'll even give a shout out in Dallas. Kyrie Irving has Ubuntu consciousness. Yeah. And I shout him out because of the fact that he did not allow his NBA dream to blind him to his connection with the people in the community.
Also, I want to shout out Steph and Aisha Curry.
Yeah.
Even though they moved from Oakland to San Francisco, they are still having the root of their work in Oakland. They're making sure that the literacy of children in Oakland raises, and because of the work that they have done, those minority communities, their literacy rates are higher now because their roots are in their community in Oakland. So I like this. This was nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Shout out to our top 10.
Shout out to our top 10.
Shout out to Steph Curry.
Yeah, shout
out to when he gets his 5th ring.
Wardell Stephen Curry the second.
Johnson.
Okay, I hope so.
Okay.
And then shout out to those who never will get to play professional sports, but you have an Ubuntu consciousness, and you use whatever platform you have for the benefit of those who have no voice.
True. We all should be that way, regardless of what our profession, whatever, regardless of what our spotlight is.
Exactly. Don't expect from LeBron what you don't expect from yourself.
Ooh, spicy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll be right back to close things out, people. Well, we thank you all for joining us for this edition of the Haynes Remix. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope that you all give some thought to your top 5, top 10, debates. And also make sure you include Steph in there. He's in the GOAT conversation. You see what I'm referring today. Anyway, make sure you stay tapped in with us at fdhministries.org/the-Haynes-remix. Also, you can follow us on social media at The Haynes Remix. My social media is Abeni Jewel. That's AVENIJEWEL.
And mine is at FH Unscripted. Y'all, thank you for tuning in. Please continue to hang with us. Are they supposed to like, subscribe, and all that stuff?
You can like this video on YouTube. You can subscribe
to the channel.
Subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all do that.
You say that sometimes it's just kind of weird.
You know what?
Subscribe us.
Ain't no hate like daughter hate, because daughter hate just don't stop.
That's not true. I don't hate. I'm just trying to lovingly correct. Anyways, my name is Abeni Jewel Haynes.
And I am Frederick D. Haynes III, who's got nothing but love for my daughter.
And this
was the Haynes Remix.